Hi Year 3, welcome to your maths video for Tuesday the 9th of February. So this is a video for you if you've got the Year 3 maths booklet. So yesterday we had some fabulous piece of work sent in when I asked you to do your learning a little bit differently. I only expected you to complete section A and I sent you some work to complete in your purple books of finding fractions of amounts, and we worked really hard at that, so well done Year 3. Now, some of you did complete the integer and the tough challenge section, but that wasn't an expectation, so don't worry if you didn't do it, because I only expected you to complete section A. But today we're going to be moving on to a new page in our books. So we're going to be completing page 22, which has got exercise 22 at the top, and we're back to normal, completing all 3 sections today. So let's have a look, before we get going, at a little warm-up challenge for today. Now, lots of you have been sending in pictures of your warm-ups Year 3, and I've been so impressed. Jessica May, we're very impressed with you. Your warm-up challenges have been amazing, so keep up the fabulous work. So my new warm-up challenge for you today is a squirrel challenge, and it's a bit of a trial and error problem. So you're going to have to try some different ways. You might have an error and make a mistake, but we're not going to give up. We're going to try a different route. So let's have a little read. 3 squirrels ate a total of 25 nuts. So these 3 squirrels all together ate 25 nuts, a total of 25. Each of them ate a different odd number. So they didn't all eat the same, and it was a different odd number they ate, okay? How many nuts did each of the squirrels eat? Now, I would like you to find 2 different ways you could do it, okay? So if we just recap, a total of 25 altogether, but they each ate a different odd amount of nuts. Now, odd numbers, let's have a recap. We know an odd number is a number if it ends in 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, okay? So, we're looking for an odd number. So I'm going to do a bit of trial and error with this. So, the first odd number I could think of would be 19, okay? I know it's an odd number because it ends in a 9. Now, I need to try and get the total to 25, and each squirrel needs to eat something different, okay, a different number. So, another odd number I could think of, 19, I could add 3 to that, 19, 20, 21, 22. So, I could add 3, but what have I got left? 22, 23, 24, 25. Now, I could do 3 as another odd number, but remember, they had to eat a different odd number. So I've tried it, I've made an error, so now I'm going to look at those numbers and I'm going to have to change them around a little bit. So this time, I'm going to start with the number 17, okay? I know 17 is an odd number because it ends in a 7. So 17, 18, 19, 20, so I could add 3 again. And what do we add to 20 to get to the total of 25? How many nuts could this squirrel eat? Well, if you said 5, well done, because 5 is also an odd number, okay? So that's just one way. Now, I know you'll be able to find me some other ways, but remember, each squirrel has to eat a different amount of odd number of nuts, okay? It has to be an odd number for each squirrel, and altogether, the 3 amounts must total 25. Now, remember, you can make a mistake like me and just have another go. It's trial and error. So pause the video now, and I can't wait to see if you can come up with some different ways for my squirrel challenge. Okay, so let's have a look at our learning for today. Our learning question is, can I use the inverse to solve a range of number sentences and continue to solve problems? Now, we've been looking at the inverse operations. Now, we know that inverse means the opposite. Well done if you said that at home. So it's the opposite operation. So if we have a recap, we know addition, the opposite to that, the inverse, is subtraction. Multiplication, the inverse, the opposite to multiplication, is division. Okay? So we're going to be using the inverse operations today to solve some of our number sentences, and then we're going to move on to the problems in our integer section and our tough challenge section. But we're mainly going to be using inverse operations, using all 4 operations today, okay? So let's have a look at some of the problems and number sentences in your startup challenge that use the inverse operation. So I've got 38, subtract something, subtract 5, subtract 4 equals 23. Now, first of all, that's a very big number sentence, so we need to break it down and really understand what the question is asking. So 38, I need to find the missing number here, what I've subtracted from 38. But I've then been given another subtraction, and my answer. Now, which way, we had a similar question to this before, which way do we work to try and work this out if we're working out the missing number in the middle? Or if you said backwards, well done. So I'm going to start with my answer. Now, this number sentence involves subtractions. So what is the inverse operation for subtraction, the opposite operation? Have a look. Oh, if you said addition, well done, okay? Because subtraction makes our numbers smaller. Addition is the opposite, it makes our numbers bigger, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work backwards using the opposite operation to subtraction, addition. And instead of subtracting 4, because that was the last thing I did before I got to 23, I'm going to add 4 onto my answer. So 23, add 4. I'm just going to write this down to keep track of my calculation. So I'm going to add this instead of subtracting. So 23 add 4, oh I know that's 27. I'm just going to add my 1s. I'm going to just cancel that off. I've used that part now. So the next bit we did when we had 27, so we got to 27 here. Instead of subtracting 5 and working backwards, I'm going to use the inverse. We're going to add 5. So 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So I've done that part and it gave me 32. So that must mean now 38 subtract something gives me the answer of 32. Okay, so I need to work out the difference between these two numbers. So I'm just going to count up from 32 to get to 38. Can you count with me? 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, that was 6, okay? So I must have subtracted 6 from 38 to get to 32. And I've done that by working backwards and using the inverse operation. So have a really good look at your numbers and make sure you're keeping track of your calculation as you go, okay? Now you've also got a similar question to this one. 48 equals something multiplied by 2. Now remember, doesn't matter which side our equal sign is on, it's just giving us the answer. We still need to work out this problem. Now I've got something times 2 is 48. So remember we're using the inverse operations. What's the opposite of multiply? The opposite operation of multiply, so it does the inverse, it does the opposite. Oh, if you said divide, well done. When we multiply, our number's getting bigger, but when we divide, we're doing the opposite, our number will get smaller, okay? So, I'm going to use these numbers and divide, and I'm going to do 48 divided by 2. Share it by 2. Now, lots of you will know that dividing by 2, that just means we half it. And we know half of 48, well, half of my 4 tens, that's 2 tens. And half of my 8 ones, half of 8 ones, 4 ones, okay? And then if we check our number sentence, makes sense now, 24 multiplied by 2 equals 48, and it does, because when we multiply by 2, we double it, and double 24 equals 48. Right, so moving on then, I've got another question here that's very similar to a question in your section A. Now we've been looking at the inverse operations today for some of our questions, But if you have a look closely at this one, 355 subtract something equals 348. Now, the inverse subtraction is addition. So if I added these two numbers, would that give me the answer? Would that be right? Have a look at that problem. Or if you said no, it wouldn't be, well done. Because it would give me a really big number to subtract here. And I'd be subtracting a bigger number away from a smaller one, which we know we can't do. So make sure you are checking for questions that are not using the inverse as well. Read your number sentence really carefully today. Now, if I look at those two numbers, I need to work out the difference. When we work out the difference, we can subtract between the two numbers. So we could do 355 subtract 348. Now you'll see you won't need to do a column method for that one because the numbers are very close together, okay? So some of you might cover over your hundreds, 55 in your head, and we could count back to 48, okay? And that would give us our answer to work out the difference. Or some of you might want to count on from 348 to 355, okay? Let's read it first to understand what we're going to do with it. Something multiplied by 5 add 20 gives me 60, okay? So I'm going to use the inverse again for this one, and we're going to work backwards like the question that we looked at earlier on. So at the end I got the answer 60, and the last thing I did to get the answer of 60 was add 20, okay? So what's the opposite of addition, the inverse operation? Or if you said subtraction, well done. So I'm going to do 60 subtract 20, okay? I know 60 take away 20 is 40. So if I cancel that off now, something times 5 will give me 40. Okay, so I'm going to count in my 5 times table until I get to 40. Can you count in your 5s with me? Ready? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. That's 8 times 5, okay? And now we always make sure we check. 8 times 5 we know is 40, and if we add our 20 to 40, we get 60, okay? So I've worked backwards and used the inverse operations. Right, you've also got a times table question with millilitres in. I've got 6 millilitres multiplied by something gives me 24 millilitres. So what you could do, use the inverse operation of multiplication. What's the inverse of multiply? The opposite operation is to divide. So I could do 24 divided by 6 to find out my missing number, okay? But I know some of us won't know our 6 times table, and if there's a times table you don't know and you're struggling with, have a good check at the multiple, okay, that you've ended with. We've got 24 there. Now I know my 4 times table. 6 times 4 is 24, okay? So use your knowledge of other times tables. If you're still struggling, remember, you can always just keep counting on and adding 6 until we get to 24. Or because we would be dividing 24 divided by 6 to find out this missing number, you could split, have your 6 groups, and then share your 24 counters between those 6 groups, okay? Right, last one then. I've got something centimetres, add 60 centimetres, gives me 85 centimetres, okay? So I need to work out how I've got to 85. I've added something to 60 to get to 85, okay? So I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to take 60 away from 85 to give me the answer. I'm not going to add, I'm going to use the inverse operation to addition, which is subtraction. So I'm going to do 85 subtract 60. They're both centimetres. Remember to put your unit of measurement in. Now, I'm going to just change my 8 because I know I can do it better than that. Making sure our presentation is fantastic. Okay, so 85 take away 60, but if I take away 6 tens, from 8 tens. Oh, that's going to leave me with 2 tens, and then I've still got my 5 ones, okay? So that's going to be 25. If you were struggling to work that out, you could always do a column subtraction. Right, before we pause the board and you have a go at section A, I have spotted a tricky question on your section A, so you might want to get your book out now and find question 12 on section A. Okay, let's have a look at it together. You've got 9 kilograms equals 180 kilograms divided by something. Okay, so I'm going to use my known number facts for this. So if I cover over the 0, 18 divided by something gives me 9. Oh, I know that 18 divided by 2 gives me 9. But it's not 18, it's 180, so that's 10 times bigger than 18. So I need to make my answer of 2 10 times bigger. So what's 2 times 10? Or if you said 20, well done year 3. So now we've got 180 kilograms divided by 20, so shared into 20 groups, will give you 9 kilograms. Okay, so I've used my known multiplication facts to help me with that one and realised it's just 10 times bigger. So I'd like you to pause my video now and have a go at completing section A, making sure you're looking really carefully for those inverse questions. Really read your number sentences, year 3. Okay, so moving on then, looking at some of the questions in our intergear section and then our tough challenge. You've got a similar question to this, increase 6 by 25. Now when we increase something, do you think we're going to be subtracting or adding? We're increasing it, so it's going to be getting bigger, okay? So we're going to be adding. So if I'm increasing 6 by 25, it's asking me to do 6 add 25, okay? You can just count on and you should get 31 for that one. I know lots of you will have worked that out very quickly just looking at that number sentence. You've also got a similar question to this one. How many quarters are in 5 wholes? Okay, so it's that fraction question again. 5 wholes, well that's a whole pizza or a whole cake. So I'm going to draw out, I'm going to pick cakes today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my 5 wholes and it's asked me how many quarters are there in 5 wholes. Now we know quarter is written 1 out of 4 pieces. Okay, my denominator tells me I'm going to split each of these 5 wholes into 4 equal pieces. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to half it again to find the quarters. Okay, and now all that's left is for us to count each quarter. Okay, so we know quarters were split into 4 equal pieces, so we can just count in our 4 times table. Are you ready to count in your 4s with me? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So there's 20 quarters in 5 wholes. Okay. Right, last but not least, our tough challenge today. I've got in a class, now you've got a very similar question to this, where we just need to really read it and understand the question before we get working it out. We don't want to make an error. In a class there were 30 children, 13 were boys. How many were girls? Okay, so in the whole class altogether, there's 30 children. Okay, I'm going to underline the key words and important numbers. 13 of those children were boys. So it's asking us how many were girls. So if we know 13 of them are boys, then the rest must be girls. So we need to subtract those 13 boys away and we should be left with our answer for the girls. So I'm going to do a column subtraction. So starting with the ones, 0 ones subtract 3 ones. Oh, I can't take 3 ones away from 0 because there's more on the floor. I'm going to go next door and get 10 more. So I'm going to cross that out. My 3 10s become 2 10s And I've now got 10 subtract 3, which we know we're using our number bonds. That's going to be 7. And then 2 10s subtract 1 10. I'm left with 1 10. So 17 would be girls, okay? So just make sure you're reading the question carefully. Right, last but not least, you have got some missing measurements and months of the years questions. Now remember, if you're struggling about months of the year or missing measurements, there's somewhere in your book that you can look. Oh, if you said the useful information page at the start of your book, well done, okay? So make sure you're using the front of your book if you're struggling with the useful information page with any measurement questions or months of the year questions, okay? So good luck today, Year 3. I can't wait to see all of your work and if you can solve my squirrel warm-up. See you soon.